Atlantis. Where is it? From the Mediterranean to the Atlantic, in the air, on land, and beneath the sea, a group of scientists, historians, and archaeologists led by investigative journalist Simka Jakobovich and movie director and explorer James Cameron embark on the most extensive search ever made for the lost, sunken city of Atlantis.
The smoking gun would be ancient, massive architecture.
Using ancient writings, new discoveries, and cutting-edge technology,
Wow.
their goal is to unlock the secret of this age-old mystery.
The same scene over and over and over again.
That looks like a boat.
And if that's the hull of a boat, that boat's underwater.
And finally answer a 2,000-year-old question. Is Atlantis real? And if it is, can we find it?
Oh, it's an incredible finding.
You guys are making history.
All right, here we go. And action. I've always been fascinated by the future. Can you step back a half step? But I also loved imagining past worlds and what the people were like. Okay, move forward slowly. Look in the second window just a little bit as you go by. When I was in high school, I was fascinated by ancient Egypt, by the Greeks, by the Romans, and Atlantis. And I think that underneath this myth, this parable, there has to be something historically that happened. And cut. So,
It's great to see you. Just awesome.
that's my day job.
It's a good day, Joe.
So, are we doing this?
We're doing it.
Going after Atlantis?
I've got the boat. I've got the divers, the ROV, the team.
Oh man, I got to be there on that ship. I've never not been on the ship.
I know you do. I know you do.
You're killing me.
So I know you. I don't
We're
want
getting set to break.
to pull you off, and we need to strategize.
Yeah.
So
Hey Maria, pull lunch.
Okay, all right. Guys, let's take lunch.
Look at some maps.
thank you.
Everything we know about Atlantis comes from the Greek philosopher Plato, who wrote some 2,400 years ago. In Plato's tale, the Atlanteans ruled an aggressive empire, stretching from the Atlantic all the way to the eastern Mediterranean. Their capital, Atlantis, was a port, a unique city made up of 3 concentric rings of land and water. At its center, there was a temple to the god of water, Poseidon, where the Atlanteans sacrificed bulls. There were also incredible bridges and canals connecting the various moats, and the central wide canal that cut across the city and linked the temple with the sea. And it all came to a terrible end in a single day and night, when earthquakes and tsunamis destroyed the city, submerging it beneath water and mud. But where is it?
All right, so where are we going to go first?
Now, so what's my mission?
Investigate some of these new hypotheses, investigate the ones that people tend to find appealing, pick it apart. Let's be rigorous.
I'm looking for the signs of a common civilization that dominated the Mediterranean all the way to the Atlantic. And maybe this quest will lead to the legendary mother city, Atlantis. Quite a journey.
Well, you're gonna spend a lot of time on boats.
First stop?
Well, look, I'm very partial to the Minoans, as you know. The Minoans were definitely a seagoing civilization, one of the peak civilizations of its day on Crete and on Thera, 1,100 years before Plato. You've got a city that disappeared overnight.
Santorini.
Yeah, Santorini.
So a few days later, and with the help of a few seasickness pills, I set sail along the eastern Mediterranean for the Greek island of Santorini. 3,500 years ago, this island looked much different than today. It had a round shape with an opening leading into the sea, very similar to Plato's description of Atlantis. At that time, Santorini was inhabited by the great Minoan civilization. But everything changed in 1550 BC when the volcano in the center of the island erupted with devastating force. So is Plato describing Santorini when he writes of Atlantis? To answer this, I meet with author Charles Pellegrino.
In the experience of human history, this would have been the largest volcanic explosion. We're talking about a force that would add up to more than 1 million atomic bombs detonating right behind me.
The eruption went on for days. A mass of rock, almost equivalent to Mount Everest, was blown into the atmosphere. The eruption and the earthquakes that accompanied it created a mega tsunami, which reached a height of 800 feet and devastated the coasts of Crete, Egypt, and Turkey. At the north coast of Crete, the tsunami destroyed Minoan coastal towns and obliterated their massive fleet. The cloud of ash that spread from the explosion was so hot that people who stood on the shores of Crete disintegrated as the cloud hit them. Egyptian writings from that time describe a huge shockwave that destroyed houses, temples, and parts of the pyramids.
This event was so huge that there is no way that the civilizations of the time, especially in the Mediterranean, would have failed to notice it and mention it in their oral and written histories.
So was the eruption of Santorini a cataclysmic event in Plato's story? Are the Minoans the long-lost Atlanteans? I travel with Charlie to the only Minoan archaeological site still standing on the island, the Minoan city of Akrotiri. It seems to match Plato's description of a very advanced Bronze Age civilization. This 3,500-year-old site is incredible. The streets are wide, and the buildings are built with earthquake-resistant architecture, similar to the designs of today. And that's not all. They also had flush toilets and indoor plumbing thousands of years before the rest of the world, and it was all destroyed overnight.
Is this Atlantis?
I would say to a 99% probability that this is a part of what Plato was writing about in his story of Atlantis.
So the Minoans were a highly advanced civilization that vanished due to a natural disaster. But is this enough to say that they were the Atlanteans? I'm not sure. So I check in with the boss.
Zivka, hey, so why are you calling me? You missed me already, or did something go wrong?
Nothing went wrong, no boat sinking. I did spend some time with Charlie on Santorini, and I wanted to report back because, you know, in many ways it's very convincing. It's a high technology, it was destroyed pretty much overnight. But Plato says they came from the west and they were aggressive. And the Minoans were in the east and they were actually peaceful. And the other thing that really bothers me, even though I think that Santorini is part of the story, Plato never describes a volcanic eruption. It's more like he's describing tsunamis and earthquake and sinking and mud.
This gets to the kind of the fundamental question of our quest here, which is there really one place? Because you know how I feel about this. I feel it's a science fiction story. I feel that it's a parable. It's a moral and ethical parable, and he's drawing from different things in their collective record. He's piecing it together. You know, as a science fiction writer, you call it world building.
I differ. I don't question that Plato wanted to use it for some purpose, but I do believe that he's not just cobbling different pieces. He talks about a civilization, and there must be a point of origin. I do believe there's an Atlantis out there somewhere.
All right, well, look, let's go find it.
There's Malta out there, there's Sardinia. I want to keep going west.
Yeah, so go west, young man.
I set sail west from Santorini to the next prime candidate for Atlantis, the island of Malta. And its mysterious 6,000-year-old structures. Are these the temples of Atlantis?
Incredible.
We're sailing to the island of Malta. Like many others, Peter, our Maltese boat captain, thinks that his homeland is Atlantis. His first argument is that Malta was once a much bigger island. To prove this, he takes me to the cliffs. He starts with mysterious tracks called cart ruts that crisscross the entire island.
These are very impressive. Tell me about what we're looking at here.
Well, as you can see, these are clearly man-made ruts which were hewn out of the rocks. They put large stones, round stones, spherical stones in the ruts.
Like right here.
That's right. Then they would put the large boulders on top of the spheres and pull these huge stones to build their temples.
6,000 years ago, the cart ruts seem to have been used to build megalithic temples. The identity of the temple builders is unknown. All we know is that they disappeared suddenly at the same time that part of the island collapsed.
It's amazing to me that they built all this without the wheel, without any metal tools, without cement.
We do have remains here and there of rounded stones, which could have been used to transport some of the megaliths.
Have you found weapons here?
No, there's no indication of any weapons at all, and there's really no indication of any violence.
The high technology and the sudden disappearance fits the story of Atlantis. But the Maltese were peaceful, and the Atlanteans were warlike. So I decide to keep heading west. According to Plato, Atlantis is buried beneath water and mud at the western end of the Mediterranean, just past the Pillars of Hercules, today's Strait of Gibraltar. And that's exactly where Professor Richard Freund has brought a team of divers and marine archaeologists in his years-long quest for Atlantis.
The evidence is really what people want to hear about. They don't want to hear about the theories. They don't want to hear about just geophysics. They want to hear that there is evidence, and they want to know what that evidence is. Plato is writing in a very specific time period. So when he says that Atlantis was located at the Strait of Gibraltar, he called them the Pillars of Hercules in his time, every single mariner, every single Greek reader, every single person knew exactly where he was talking about. We're right in front of the Strait of Gibraltar, the Pillars of Hercules. You have to look right here. So what are we hoping to find? From my view, the smoking gun would be ancient, massive architecture. We're not going to find the Disney-esque version of Atlantis as it's sunk and everything is intact and the statues are standing and the columns are standing and the walls are perfect. What we're going to find is pieces, but we're going to find lots of pieces. It's what I call the debris splatter. Debris splatter means whenever there is a destruction, the destruction is always going to leave evidence splattered over a large area. Atlantis was supposed to be a very large city. Anything that's still left from the debris is going to end up in the Atlantic, in this area.
On the command bridge, The crew monitor the screens. They're looking for anything unusual bulging from the sea floor.
Okay, guys. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here.
There seems to be something there, and it's huge.
We start showing like a mountain. Can be a rock, anything. Around 4 meters of height, 56 meters wide. So probably means that there is something down there.
I'm following the shot line down.
The divers are now 48 meters deep.
What's that, Edo? Can you see that?
It's a shipwreck. But it's not ancient. It's made of iron, and it's relatively modern. They keep looking around, but it's soon clear that at this site, they will not find what they're looking for. While the search continues off the coast of southern Spain, I'm nearing Sicily. Freund is right. Plato places Atlantis past the Pillars of Hercules, and most scholars are convinced that he's talking about the Strait of Gibraltar. But some historians believe that Plato is referring to the Strait of Messina between the Italian peninsula and the island of Sicily.
We're sailing right through the Strait of Messina right now. Sunrise, it's gorgeous. And you can really see how close the two land masses really are. Italy's right over there, and right across, there's Sicily. So it's entirely conceivable that at one point these were regarded as the Pillars of Hercules. There might have been physically some pillars put up as you sailed out into the Mediterranean.
So if the Strait of Messina is the original Pillars of Hercules, can it be that Sardinia, on the other side of the strait, was once Atlantis? "3,500 years ago, one of the most impressive civilizations of ancient times thrived on Sardinia. So I'm headed to one of the 7,000 sites that this forgotten culture left on the island. I meet with American researcher Robert Ishoy, who has been studying Sardinia for decades. Ishoy believes that these spectacular ruins, called nuraghe, are what's left of Atlantis.
This, Robert, is impressive to be sure.
Yes.
But is it Atlantis?
This culture here on Sardinia matches everything Plato describes about Atlantis. He talked about the culture as being a very advanced culture. We look at the architecture. This is very advanced technique.
It is amazing. I actually can't believe it. We're inside a 3,500-year-old structure built with no cement, and it's still standing.
The circular aspects of the buildings, Plato said everything was round. They built pillars. He calls them pillars.
These round structures, were they for living in? Temples? What were they for?
The original story was that Poseidon, of course, which is a god, married a woman, and in order to protect her, he built a pillar.
A tower like this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Sardinia has more characteristics that match Plato's descriptions. The rocks around the island have three colors: black, white, and red. There are hot and cold springs everywhere, and frequent earthquakes and floodings. Robert has me wondering, are these the temples of Atlantis? He now takes me to one of the most impressive, Su-Nuraxi.
Wow. We're in the largest complex that they have found to date. This is a complex of 5 towers. You have the center tower, and then you have the 4 outer towers that match the compass: north, south, east, and west.
And until recently, very recently, nobody knew it was here.
Well, it was covered with mud, completely. Imagine the height of this and completely buried by mud.
So what are you saying here? This is Atlantis?
I'm saying that if you take the description given by Plato of all the different things about Atlantis, the geography, the island itself, the civilization, there is no other place on this earth that fits it better than Sardinia.
I'm beginning to think that Robert might be right.
Hey, Sipka, what's happening?
What's happening is I think I found it. I know this sounds crazy, but Sardinia, I think Sardinia is Atlantis.
Okay, let's hear the case.
You know, it fits exactly like Plato describes. The technology is amazing, and you find that circular motif everywhere in Sardinia, and it's warlike people.
All right, so you're ticking some boxes, but I'm not convinced that just because these buildings are around, that necessarily translates to the kind of concentric city plan. But in any case, the timing doesn't really add up because the Nuragic civilization emerged after the eruption.
You're right, that doesn't fit, because actually Santorini doesn't destroy Sardinian culture, it almost gives rise to it.
So maybe these were displaced people that were refugees.
Could it be that what we're seeing in Sardinia is a new Atlantis?
Yeah, I can imagine that. So you need to be looking for Nuragis or similar architectural motifs in other places.
Still further west.
Keep going west.
So the Nuragi temples of Sardinia may have been built by Atlantean refugees after the destruction of their mother city. I keep heading west, past the Strait of Gibraltar, southern Spain, where a new discovery may lead us to Atlantis.
Children under the age of 12.
Professor Freund and his team are still trying to find archaeological evidence for the sunken city of Atlantis at the Strait of Gibraltar. Suddenly,
oh my God, take a look at those giant discs. These discs must be man-made, there's no question about it. Ancient for sure, but what are they? I have no idea, mate.
These circular discs may be part of the debris field that they've been looking for, but the evidence is ambiguous. If the hole at the center of the disc is round, then these are Roman-era millstones, much later than Atlantis. If they're square, then maybe they're sectional remains of columns that once graced Atlantis. Professor Freund believes they're square. Ralph Peterson, the marine archaeologist on board, believes they're not. But on one disc, he's not sure.
This doesn't look round at all. This looks like it's a square.
Maybe. I'll give you a maybe on that one.
After days of coming up empty, they finally have found ancient objects that once, maybe, adorned Atlantis.
They were much bigger than what I anticipated, a metre and a half across maybe, really solid, sort of like this thickness. It's definitely not modern times, you know, you can say that for sure. In the true sense of exploration, we had a find.
But one ambiguous find does not an Atlantis make. So while the divers continue their quest, I begin my search in southern Spain, where author Georgios Diaz Montexano believes that some Atlantean refugees went inland and built shrines to the memory of their lost city. Images of ships and ports at this remote location would support his idea that at some point the real Atlantis was transformed into myth.
Creo que esta es una de las cuevas más importantes de hacha rupestre que ha aparecido en toda la península ibérica y en todo el occidente. Vemos aquí portuaria con barcos que se ven como que están entrando en un puerto, saliendo de un puerto, alejándose, 7 diseños de barcos diferentes. Y esto fue lo que me hizo a mí pensar en ese pasaje famoso de Critia, donde se narra que el puerto de la Atlántida era muy importante porque venían barcos de todas las naciones.
To test his theory, Georgios enlists the help of engineer Ken Boydston and Professor Gregory Hayworth, experts in forensic photography and spectral imaging, bringing lost images back to life. They use special cameras that utilize 16 different wavelengths of light invisible to the human eye, so as to capture detailed images of the inscriptions.
Our job here is to try to make these very faint images as clear as possible, perhaps discovering new symbols which are not even faintly visible to the naked eye.
I see the lines that we could barely see before. Oh, I see the boat, I see the oars.
There is some, yes.
With regular light waves visible to the human eye, the image of a boat in what appears to be a square harbor is faded and indistinct. But when photographing with special multispectral light, new details suddenly emerge.
It just occurred to me what this is. This is a three-dimensional image we can see inside the boat. And these are the ribs of the keel itself that go down. The artist is sophisticated enough to actually show this in 3 dimensions.
Suddenly, they discover an image that was totally invisible to the naked eye.
There is, in fact, another figure. This clearly looks more like a tail, and this is like ears. We can see that this is much more like a horse and a rider who has some kind of, perhaps even a helmet on it, which has a plume on top, a feather on top.
Next to the rider is another square that the scientists identify as a port with concentric circles. It appears as though the rider is fleeing from the port. Whoever made these drawings high in the mountains was not recording boats, ports, and fleeing horsemen that were nearby. They were recounting stories of events that occurred somewhere along the coast, far away from here.
You've got me shaken up, I can tell you that.
I'm beginning to think that Georgios is onto something. Maybe these drawings are how Atlantis was transformed from a real place into a mythological port. We now go to Badajoz, southern Spain, to see some mysterious finds in this little-known museum.
Es importante. Guerreros toro. Los cuernos le salen de la cabeza, no de cascos.
In Plato, the bull is associated with the religion of Atlantis. These inscribed rocks are incredible. Warriors, chariots, and an undeciphered script known amongst archaeologists as Tartessan. Can this be the lost language of Atlantis? Georgios was saving the best for last.
Mira esto.
Oh my God.
3 círculos concéntricos y un canal que entra. Y lo que hay en el centro, que simbólicamente puede ser el templo de Poseidón.
So this is a symbol of Atlantis.
Atlantis.
These concentric circles remind me of the architecture I saw in Sardinia. Can it be that southern Spain was the mother city, and these soldiers once stood guard at Atlantis? If this is the case, why is there no archaeology here that matches the archaeology there. Georgios thinks he's identified the missing link.
The age of 12.
In Sardinia, we saw ancient structures that match Plato's descriptions of Atlantis, but the timeline was wrong. Perhaps they were built by refugees from Atlantis. In Spain, we saw images that fit both the descriptions and timeline, but no structures. Georgios believes that he's found the missing Spanish link, the original Atlantis architecture, a recently excavated 4,000-year-old Sardinian-style temple.
This is in the middle of nowhere, and it was in the middle of nowhere in the Bronze Age too. There's no cities around here, and they did find Bronze Age burials. We're talking about 1800 BCE. And look over here, a moat, surrounded by water, concentric circles.
Built 700 years before the Nuragies of Sardinia, I'm astounded to see so many features of Sardinian culture in this Spanish temple.
It's like a maze. You come up to this place, it doesn't look like much. It's a mini version of what we saw in Sardinia. But look how complex it is. And you can see the themes, the moat, the concentric circles. You can't say this is a metaphor. This is Atlantean architecture as described by Plato. You have the compass points, and in the middle, right over here, you have a deep, deep well. It seems that some kind of water divinity is being worshipped, Poseidon. And look where it's situated. Once again, we see the same theme described by Plato. It's in the middle of a fertile plateau. This is not a city, it's not a house, it's not a castle, it's a temple, it's a place where people worship.
So is this ground zero for an Atlantean culture that later spread all the way to Sardinia? We're now joined by Professor Freund. Having little luck finding an underwater debris field, he decides to take us to a unique coastal location in southern Spain, where he believes Atlantis once stood.
We're in the Doña Ana Park, one of the largest marshes in all of Europe. Hundreds of square kilometers of just marsh. But in antiquity, this was an open bay. An open bay that ships could come in all the way up to Seville.
We drive for hours across the strange and unique landscape of Doña Ana. For hundreds of miles, it shifts between vegetation, beach, and sand. Geologically, it's clear that something extraordinary happened here. After several hours, we arrive at our destination. Professor Freund takes me to the spot he calls the archaeological smoking gun.
It doesn't look like much, Richard.
You know, sometimes big things come in small packages.
Yeah, I've seen castles and I've seen temples, and now I'm seeing a hole in the ground. Tell me why you think this is significant.
This is the last vestiges of Atlantis. It is from the time period in which Atlantis, a massive stone city, existed.
You're telling me this rock, this stone, that's the treasure?
It's not indigenous to this place. It's very, very different than any of the other stones. It's not sand, it's not mud. When I look at this and I see all the marine debris that's actually embedded into the rock surface, you can see that this is a rock that was not part of this area. And because it is so high up, I mean, we still are in the midst of the swamp. We think that a massive tsunami brought this stone in thousands of years ago and deposited it here. In criminal investigations, you follow the money. In archaeology, you follow the stones.
If Freund is right, and Atlantis is buried here, it means that the debris field should be just off the Doñana coast. After hours of searching, nothing is found. Time after time, the divers come up empty.
No fish, no weed, not even a beer can. I mean, it's just barren.
Clearly, we have a problem. If the port of Atlantis is buried deep beneath the mudflats of Doñana, then it's simply inaccessible to us. But I have an idea. In Laja Alta, there were two squares depicted on the cave wall. If the square with the concentric circles depicts the port of Atlantis, then maybe the square with the ship represents something else. Some kind of holding area or anchorage out at sea, where ships waited for entry into the fabled port. If such a holding area existed, then the most logical place for it would be near the closest island to the Strait of Gibraltar, Santi Petri. I share my hunch with the team. It's a long shot, but we have no other leads. So we make our way to the target area.
I see something. It's pretty straight.
Que se ve una secuencia de bloques que parece como si fuera un espigón, un muelle.
And this area here could be a holding area.
Yo espero que vamos a encontrar evidencias arqueológicas incuestionables de la existencia de una civilización muy antigua que solo podría relacionarse con la Atlántida.
Captain Jose Maria positions the ship. The team gets ready to check out the long shot theory that beneath these waters is the long lost anchorage of Atlantis. It's the last day of the expedition, seeking evidence of Atlantis. Now diving on a hunch, if Atlantis is beneath the mudflats of Doñana, this site here is where the ancient anchorage should be. Tensions run high as the divers go looking for a needle in a 3,000-year-old archaeological haystack.
Good to go.
But what do we look for? Ships? Wood rots over thousands of years, but breakwaters, jetties, and stone anchors don't.
Are these docks? Maybe they're breakwaters.
And then, finally, we find a huge ancient stone anchor exactly where we theorized that the holding area of the port of Atlantis should be. It's widely believed that mankind did not sail into the Atlantic Ocean before the 8th century BC. According to this idea, all fishing and trading routes in this area were confined to the Mediterranean Sea. This anchor tells a different story.
This is a 3,000, 4,000-year-old anchor that is massive for a very, very large boat. That shows us that ancient large boats were sailing into this area 4,000 years ago.
But a single stone anchor could be just an anomaly, evidence of an ancient boat that went off course. We need more artifacts to support the idea that there once was a great holding area here.
Eduardo, can you hear me?
Oh,
What trouble are you having?
current is serious. A huge swell is beating us. Oh, this is something. That's a great one. Incredible. I've never seen anything like that.
What are you seeing?
They just found a square anchor, which is incredible. It's undoubtedly handmade. It has a hole in the middle about the size of a fist.
That's what we were looking for. Well, I tell you guys,
it's something unbelievable. I'm moving very close to another anchor. Undoubtedly, for this area, it's an incredible finding. Certainly, it's not a common object, not even in the Mediterranean, and we are in the Atlantic.
That's absolutely awesome. That's unbelievable.
I'm approaching now a third one, which has an oval shape. In its maximum extension is probably 70, 75 or 80 centimeters long. It looks really in perfect shape.
This could be 3,500 years old, it could be 4,000 years old. And it establishes a harbor right here where, I didn't even dare dream to find anchors, because it's easier to find a needle in a haystack than Bronze Age anchors in the Atlantic.
This means something. We are on the right track.
We've now discovered a total of 4 Bronze Age anchors on the Atlantean side of Spain. But our divers are not finished. An hour later, they find a 5th triangle-shaped anchor.
That's amazing. I really mean it. That's amazing.
And shortly after, anchor number 6.
I felt it. I felt good today.
I told you we will.
You guys are awesome.
I tell you, I'm so proud to be here.
You guys are making history.
The implications of this find are mind-boggling. Our team found evidence of a holding area exactly where we predicted it would be.
Es impresionante. Yo tenía referencias, pero lo habéis encontrado. Ha sido muy emocionante, muy emocionante. Este es el momento más importante de mi vida.
It's becoming clear, Atlantis is no mere myth. Just as Plato describes, even before the pyramids in Egypt, there was an ancient civilization in the Atlantic beyond the Pillars of Hercules. This civilization spread its culture, architecture, and seafaring knowledge across the Mediterranean. And it all probably came to an end in a series of Santorini-related natural disasters. Seen this way, Atlantis was not simply one place, but a far-reaching civilization.
Hey, Jim, we did it.
You did it. You found great stuff. You found the anchors. You proved that there's a trading culture out in the Atlantic beyond the Pillars of Hercules. This is fantastic evidence. But did you locate Atlantis? Well, maybe. Atlantis could be buried under the mud at Tartessos. We need to investigate that further. I'm saying prove it. Find it. Dig it up.